In 1929, inside a crumbling Ottoman palace being converted into a museum, a German theologian named Gustav Adolf Deissmann was sorting through old manuscripts. Tucked among forgotten documents in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, Turkey, he found a torn piece of gazelle-skin parchment, stained, folded, and clearly very old. When he unrolled it, he found something historians still argue about today. It was a map signed by an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis, dated 1513. And on that map was a coastline that, according to the standard story of human history, should not have been known to anyone alive at that time.
The map showed the coast of South America with reasonable accuracy for its era. That part made sense, since European sailors were already exploring that coastline by 1513. But further south, the map showed something else. A long, mountainous coastline curving away from the bottom of South America, free of ice, with rivers and mountain ranges sketched along its length. For centuries, this part of the map was dismissed as imaginative guesswork, the kind of thing old map makers did when they ran out of real information and filled in the blanks with myth.
Then, in 1949, something changed the conversation. A scientific survey conducted by the United States and Sweden used seismic soundings to map the actual bedrock of Antarctica beneath its ice sheet. What they found, when compared side by side with the Piri Reis map, stunned a small circle of researchers. The bedrock coastline beneath the Antarctic ice, hidden under nearly a mile of frozen weight, appeared to roughly match the coastline drawn on a 16th century map. A coastline that, by every account of mainstream geology, has been buried under ice for thousands of years. This single overlap became one of the most argued over topics in the history of cartography. How could a coastline buried under ice since before recorded history appear, even loosely, on a map made in 1513? Piri Reis himself left us a clue. In notes on the margins of his own map, he explained he did not invent this chart from imagination. He said he compiled it from around 20 older maps, some reportedly going back to the time of Alexander the Great, including charts believed used by sailors centuries before Columbus. Some of these source maps, according to his notes, came from the library at Alexandria in Egypt, the greatest repository of ancient knowledge in the ancient world. A library burned and looted multiple times, scattering whatever survived to the corners of the old world.
This raises the real question this video wants you to sit with. Not aliens, not lost civilizations with flying machines. Just this. Is it possible that ancient seafaring cultures explored far more of the Earth than our history books currently admit? And that some fragment of that knowledge survived just long enough to be copied onto a 16th century admiral's chart before being lost again?
Mainstream historians have offered counterpoints, and it is only fair to lay them out. Some researchers argue the southern landmass on the Piri Reis map is not Antarctica at all, but a distorted rendering of the South American coastline, folded downward due to the limitations of projecting around Earth onto flat parchment using the navigational techniques of the 1500s. Mapmakers often had to connect fragments of charts using different scales and reference points, which could create exactly this kind of accidental coastline that resembles something it is not. But here is what keeps this story alive instead of fading into a forgotten footnote. Antarctica's coastline, the version revealed by 1949 seismic data and later confirmed by additional surveys, includes specific mountain ranges. The map appears to show features resembling the Queen Maud Land Mountains, formations that remained completely invisible and unknown to the modern world until ice-penetrating radar technology became available in the 20th century. If the comparison is accidental, it is at minimum an extraordinary coincidence.
And Antarctica itself is not some symbolic stand-in for mystery. It is a real, physical place sitting at the bottom of our planet right now, today. It holds roughly 70% of the world's fresh water, locked in ice nearly 3 miles thick in places. Ice cores drilled there record Earth's atmosphere going back hundreds of thousands of years. Geological evidence confirms Antarctica was not always frozen. Fossil records show it once had forests and rivers before continental drift carried it to its current position over tens of millions of years.
So the real debate is not whether Antarctica was once ice-free. Geology already proves that it was, long before any human civilization existed. The actual debate is about timing and about memory. Could fragments of coastal knowledge passed mouth to mouth, chart to chart, library to library, have survived from a window of time when parts of that coastline were still visible, only to be copied by later cultures who had no idea what they were truly preserving? The Topkapi Palace, where this map was found, still stands today in Istanbul, and the fragment itself is preserved there in the museum's library, viewable by request to scholars. It remains one of the only physical objects in the world that puts mainstream history and fringe theory
In the same room, forcing both sides to explain the exact same 600-year-old piece of parchment. What this map ultimately reveals is not some hidden cataclysm or buried civilization. It reveals something more uncomfortable for how we usually think about history. Our timeline of human knowledge is not a straight, unbroken line moving steadily upward. It is full of gaps, fires, conquests, and lost libraries, where entire bodies of accumulated observation could vanish in a single afternoon, and where what survives often does so by accident, copied by someone who never fully understood what they were holding. The Piri Reis map does not prove that ancient sailors charted Antarctica before the ice came, but it proves something almost as unsettling. It proves that we cannot be fully certain they didn't. And in a world that likes to believe history is a settled, finished record, that small gazelle-skin uncertainty, sitting quietly in a palace in Istanbul, is reason enough to keep asking questions.
Think about how much of human history has already been rewritten by a single shovel strike or drilling core. Cities once dismissed as legend, like Troy, were eventually uncovered exactly where old stories said they would be. Trade routes, once assumed isolated, were later proven to stretch across oceans long before anyone thought possible. Each discovery did not just add a fact, it forced historians to admit the previous version of the story was incomplete, sometimes by centuries.
So the next time you look at a globe and see Antarctica sitting at the bottom of the world, white, silent, and seemingly untouched by human history, remember that a 16th century admiral once claimed to be copying older maps that hinted otherwise. His map remains exactly where it was found, waiting for the next person willing to look closely enough to ask the question again.